Imagine someone claiming to come from the future, bringing detailed predictions about events that could change the world. That someone is John Titor. And in this video, you'll hear the messages of this alleged time traveler, understand what he predicted, and discover if the future is already unfolding around us. Get ready, because what you're about to see may change the way you think about time and the world we live in. Here on The Forbidden Truth, John Titor, the supposed time traveler, left messages that could change how we understand both the past and the future. But why talk about John Titor? Because, despite sounding absurd, he made predictions that stir curiosity and even fear in many. John Titor claimed to come from 2036, a post-war time when humanity had suffered great losses and had to reorganize itself. He went public, sharing cryptic messages in online forums in the early 2000s, describing events and threats that hadn't yet happened. So, the question is, to what extent can we ignore these messages? If Titor was right, there are risks in the future we can prevent. And, more importantly, how far does the power of time go, and our ability to change it? Imagine if someone had truly seen what's coming. How would we know what's real? And how can we tell the difference between a hoax and a warning? This is the mystery we're going to try to uncover here. Titor claimed to be part of a military program and was sent to the past to retrieve a specific 1970s computer needed to correct a system error threatening his time in 2036. He alleged that the technology for time travel was created based on scientific theories we already know, but it was only successfully applied in 2034. In forums, he detailed his equipment, called C204, and how it would work, creating a time-warping field to take him back to the 1970s and eventually to the early 2000s, where he interacted with curious people and answered questions. His messages included predictions about civil conflicts in the US, nuclear threats, and even health and government issues that could endanger peace. Titor revealed a future where humanity would face intense conflicts, loss of freedom, and a hostile environment. His predictions, for him, were merely clues, so people in our time could prepare or, perhaps, change something. Let's now dive into some of John Titor's most impactful predictions, analyzing what happened, what stayed in the past, and what may still be coming. Starting with the Civil War in the United States, predicted by him to happen in 2005. We know that an open civil war did not occur, but we've seen growing political polarization in the U.S. that today is more intense than ever. Protests, racial tensions, and political divides, especially in 2020 and 2021, gave the impression the country was about to explode. It wasn't exactly the civil war Titor described, but many saw this as a possibility that, in some ways, resembled his prediction. Another significant prediction was World War III, which he said would happen around 2015. While there hasn't been a nuclear-scale world war, we've had international crises with powers like the US, Russia, and China, disputing influences, facing sanctions, and engaging in indirect conflicts. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, increased tensions in the Middle East, and Asia all show a global scenario that, for many, brings back fears of a large-scale conflict. He may not have hit the exact year, but the feeling that we're on the brink of something big hasn't disappeared. Titor also mentioned a radical change in how people would live and organize themselves, with local communities replacing big governments and cities. In recent years, especially after the pandemic, we've seen a rise in interest in living in rural areas, escaping big cities, and valuing a more independent lifestyle. What seemed like a futuristic idea is beginning to become a reality for many people, with a search for self-sufficiency and even movements encouraging a break from the conventional system. We've now reached a point where we can understand the relevance of these predictions to our present and future. If Titor's messages were indeed a warning, he got some points right. The search for a decentralized internet, energy crises, the risk of pandemics, and global political tensions. John Titor may have spoken symbolically, but many of the points he raised are already part of our daily lives. The remaining question is, what else could happen? Are we really heading for a future of ruptures and new conflicts? John Titor remains an enigma, a mystery without resolution that raises more questions than answers. His story stirs the imagination of many, And for some, it's a warning that should be taken seriously. In the end, believing in Titor's existence is an individual choice. But one thing is certain. This story reminds us that the future is shaped by our decisions and that, if we truly want, we can shape tomorrow. Now, what do you think? Is it possible someone could really come from the future and give us hints on how to improve our present? If this story intrigued you and opened new thoughts about time, the future, and the unknown, be sure to subscribe to the channel. That way, you won't miss our upcoming videos, always full of mysteries and thought-provoking themes. And, of course, leave your comment. Do you believe John Titor was real? What's your take on the future and the messages he left us? See you in the next video here on The Forbidden Truth.